Canada Day, a national holiday, was established on July 1st, 1867, commemorating the Confederation of Upper and Lower Canada. On July 1st, 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed the first income tax bill. July 1st, 1863, the Battle of Gettysburg began during the American Civil War. And in 1966, Medicare went into effect. Also on July 1st, in 1956, Congress passes the National Interstate and Defense Highways Act for the construction of 41,000 miles of interstate highways over a 20-year period. In 1963, zip code was introduced in the United States. On July 2nd, 1881, President James A. Garfield was shot and mortally wounded as he entered a railway station in Washington, D.C. And on that day in 1917, a race riot occurred in St. Louis, Missouri, resulting in an estimated 75 African Americans killed and hundreds injured. July 2nd, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, prohibiting discrimination on the basis of race in public accommodations. American pilot Amelia Earhart, the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, perished during a flight from New Guinea to Howland Island over the Pacific Ocean on July 3, 1937. July 3, 1998, Rolls-Royce is sold to Volkswagen. July 4, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was approved by the Continental Congress. On July 4, 1863, Vicksburg, the last Confederate stronghold on the Mississippi River, surrendered to General Grant and the Army of the West after a 6-week siege. On July 4, 1882, the last great buffalo hunt began on Indian reservation lands. About 5,000 buffalo were killed at that time. By 1883, the last of the free-ranging buffalo were gone. Born on this day, 1826, was songwriter Stephen Foster. Among his nearly 200 songs were "Oh Susanna," "Camptown Races," "Swanee River," "Jeannie with the Light Brown Hair," and "Beautiful Dreamer." In 1959, a 49th star is added to the American flag to represent the new state of Alaska, and in 1960, a 50th star is added to the flag to represent Hawaii. On July 5th, promoter and showman P.T. Barnum was born in 1810. Barnum opened the greatest show on earth in Brooklyn, New York. July 5th, 1946, the bikini swimsuit, a daring two-piece swimming costume for ladies, was introduced by French designer Louis Réard at a popular swimming pool in Paris. Same day, 1996, the first cloning of an animal by scientists was revealed when Dolly the sheep was cloned from tissue taken from a 6-year-old ewe's udder. July 6, 1885, Louis Pasteur gave the first successful anti-rabies inoculation to a boy who had been bitten by an infected dog. And in 1933, the first All-Star baseball game was played in Chicago. July 7, 1930, construction begins on the Hoover Dam in the Black Canyon of the Colorado River. And on July 7, 2007, the 7 wonders of the modern world are announced. They include the Great Wall of China, Petra, the Colosseum, Chichen Itza, Machu Picchu, the Taj Mahal, and Christ the Redeemer. On July 7, 1922, the Reader's Digest was founded. And also on this day, 1972, the first women were sworn in as FBI agents. July 8, 1907, Florenz Ziegfeld staged his first Follies on the roof of the New York Theater. July 10, 1973, the Bahamas gained their independence after 250 years as a British Crown colony. Also on July 10th in 1991, Boris Yeltsin took the oath of office, becoming the first popularly elected president in Russia's 1,000-year history. And in 1509, John Calvin, theologian and founder of Presbyterianism, was born. Also on this day in 1834, American artist James Whistler was born. He's best remembered for his portrait of Whistler's mother. 1964, the Beatles' UK album, A Hard Day's Night, was released. July 11th, 1767, John Quincy Adams, the 6th U.S. president, was born. July 12th, American philosopher Henry David Thoreau was born in 1887. At Walden Pond, he wrote, "I frequently tramped 8 or 10 miles through the deepest snow to keep an appointment with a beech tree or a yellow birch or an old acquaintance among the pines." 1787, July 13th, Congress enacted the Northwest Ordinance establishing formal procedures for transforming territories into states. July 13th, 1977, 2 lightning strikes cause a 25-hour blackout in New York City. In 1985, the Live Aid concert was held in cities around the world to raise funds for famine relief in Ethiopia. July 14, 1912, American's folk singer and social activist Woody Guthrie was born, best known for writing and performing songs like "This Land Is Your Land." Also on this day, in 1881, William H. Bonney, or Billy the Kid, was shot by Sheriff Pat Garrett. July 15th, Dutch painter Rembrandt van Rijn was born in 1606. July 16th, 1969, the Apollo 11 lunar landing mission began with a liftoff from Kennedy Space Center. 16th, 1862, General Ulysses S. Grant was named Commander-in-Chief of all Union armies. Also on that day in 1945, the first atomic bomb was detonated in New Mexico. July 17th, Disneyland opened in Anaheim, California, 1955. Also on July 17th, 1997, F.W. Woolworth's, the original Five and Dime store, announced today that its last 400 stores would close. July 18th, 1976, the first perfect 10 ever recorded in Olympic gymnastics was achieved by Romania's 4'11", 88-pound Nadia Comaneci on the women's uneven parallel bars. July 19th, 1848, a women's rights convention was held in Seneca Falls, New York. On this day, in 1935, the first parking meter in the U.S., called the Parkometer, was invented and installed in Oklahoma City. July 20th, 1969, a global audience watched on television as Apollo 11 astronaut Neil Armstrong took his first step onto the moon. Also on this day, America's Viking 1 robot spacecraft made the first ever landing on Mars in 1976. On July 21st, Ernest Hemingway in 1899 was born. His works include The Sun Also Rises, A Farewell to Arms, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and The Old Man and the Sea. July 22nd, 1934, John Dillinger, Public Enemy No. 1's career was finally ended during a shootout with FBI agents. So on this day, 2009, the longest total solar eclipse of the 21st century occurred, lasting up to 6 minutes and 38 seconds off the coast of Southeast Asia. July 24th, 1943, during World War II in Europe, the Royal Air Force conducted Operation Gomorrah, raiding Hamburg, while tossing bales of aluminum foil strips overboard to cause German radar screens to see a blizzard of false echoes. As a result, only 12 Allied bombers involved were shot down. July 25th, 1956, the Italian luxury liner Andrea Doria sank after colliding with the Swedish liner Stockholm on its way to New York. Nearby ships came to the rescue, saving 1,600 people, including the captain and crew, before the ship went down. July 26th, Benjamin Franklin became Postmaster General, and the Postal Service was established in 1775. July 27, 1953, the Korean War ended with the signing of an armistice by U.S. and Korean delegates. The war had lasted just over 3 years. In 1943, the World War II fall of Mussolini occurs on July 28. On July 29, 1914, the first phone conversation occurs from New York to San Francisco. July 29, 1981, Prince Charles marries Lady Diana at a royal ceremony at St. Paul's Cathedral. In 1863, automotive pioneer Henry Ford was born on July 30th in Dearborn Township, Michigan. He developed an assembly line production system and introduced a $5 a day wage for automotive workers. And on July 31st, 1790, the U.S. Patent Office first opened its doors. The first U.S. patent was issued to Samuel Hopkins for a new method of making pearl ash and potash. The patent was signed by George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. And there you have it, this month in history.